Two, but now we have 4 children, mashallah. So, may Allah, inshallah, protect all of our children. I mean, so in the time that we have before.
Has a question.
Was that?
What
yes.
was Zoja is asking?
Is it?
Still one Wahid Zoja or more?
Still one wife, yes. Thank you for asking. And if there's anyone recording this, then thank you for confirming. Inshallah. My wife is, I'm of Indian descent. My wife is of Egyptian descent. So if anybody is from Egypt, inshallah, we can talk about that later. So we wanted to take this time before, and actually it's my first time. I've driven past Lancaster. I have very close family friends in Harrisburg, and then others who are now visiting here apparently for the iftar from Harrisburg. So I really want to thank the community for hosting Helping Hand for Relief and Development and for this opportunity to spend time together. Just a few comments that I'll make, inshallah, will hopefully put into perspective what we are doing as a Muslim community, what are some of our challenges are, and indeed how does Ramadan connect with all of that. To begin with, I want to begin with a level of gratitude that partly because we are in the 21st century, we are not taking as seriously the message of Islam in a way that is revealed to us and what is meant by the revelation and the teachings of the Prophet. The gratitude is that all of us who are physically present today and are listening to what I'm saying and listening to what has been said, the gratitude is that we are alive 2 days before the month of Ramadan finishes. And why is that important, and why should we be giving gratitude to that? We should be giving gratitude to that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fully in charge. The companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, as Ramadan approached, they would make a dua. And you probably made that dua, and the Imam and the people who led you made that dua. They would say, Allahumma balighna Ramadan. Oh Allah, help us to witness, to experience, to come in touch with Ramadan. And subhanAllah, when we say the dua, because we have GPS to go type in the directions, we know exactly where to go, how long it will take, how many police are on the road, how much construction there is. When we have an accident, we say we have insurance, so we're in control, right? We absolutely don't realize that in Shaban, when people were making this dua, in one community alone in America, in Boston, in the first 10 days of Shaban, seven janazas occurred. 7 people had already passed away in the month of Shaban. Even if they were making dua, Allahumma balighna Ramadan, Allah had a different plan for them. Then those of us who made the dua, we saw the first 10 days of Ramadan. We saw the second 10 days of Ramadan. The first 10 days, because I'm a professor, I have to make sure people are awake. The first 10 days were dedicated to do what? We're dedicated to seeking what? Rahmah, mercy. That's what the first 10 days of Ramadan is split into 3. The second 10 days were for what? Maghfirah, right? So somebody is speaking from behind these flowers. It's like this voice that just speaks out.
There is a jinn.
Is that Brother Abdul Sattar?
Yes.
Yeah, there's no jinn, it's Brother Abdul Sattar. We rent the building, but we know what's in it. Right? So, the last 10 nights, we are still having people who are passing away. And so it is impossible for the one who is delivering the reminder to guarantee that the next breath is guaranteed. And the ones receiving the reminder to say, I will make it till iftar. And we are not being melodramatic. So when I was young, growing up in America, everything our elders taught us, we thought they were being like overly dramatic. Like, oh, come on. The Imam would say, straighten your lines, fill the gaps, right? Focus in your prayers. Pray as if this is your last prayer. We would start giggling. We're like, oh my God, come on. We prayed the last prayer, you said the same thing, right? Pray as if your last prayer. We prayed again, so what are you talking about? Well, in fact, if you believe that Allah is in charge, if you believe that every single breath actually is really exhaled by the mercy and the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you realize for those who have, for example, issues with their lungs, respiratory illness, even the breath is difficult. Even the single breath is difficult. So the gratitude we want to give to begin with is that we made it this far. We made it this far. All of us who are present, awake, alive, listening to this, we made it this far. So tonight's dua, because it is the last of the odd nights, is a modified dua of the same one. The first dua to see Ramadan was what? Allahumma. You guys are fasting, mashallah. Allahumma ballighna Ramadan, right? Ballighna Ramadan, right? Balligh anni walau ayah. The Prophet peace be upon him said, invite or to explain or to present the religion of Islam, even if you only know one ayah, right? Tonight's dua, the odd night's dua is Allahumma ballighna laylatul qadr. Oh Allah, we are begging you and appealing to you to help us to witness Laylatul Qadr. Because even in the night, every hour is divided by minutes and minutes into seconds. And so we have to say, can I get there? Can I do that on my own? And do I need the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So gratitude is done and is there. Now what were we doing this month? What was the greatest task that we had before us this month? What was this month about? What were we trying to achieve? This is not the Jummah khutbah, so you're welcome to speak. Taqwa, right? Taqwa. And where did we get that from? In the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Ramadan, there is minimal direct mention of eating and drinking as the primary purpose. In fact, if you were a human being alive when revelation was coming, you might have felt like I would have felt if there was a new policy or a new rule. Why us? Why should we have to do this? The human beings, Allah knows best who they are, so Allah addresses them. In the Quran about fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامِ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُم. That it's been written, prescribed, commanded upon you that you will fast. In case you start to complain and say, why us? What about the people who came before us? كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُم. Just like it was written upon those who came before us. Here is the critical piece. If we haven't done it yet, 2 more days to get it done. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. The fasting was prescribed so that we would endeavor to achieve taqwa. Now here's the amazing thing. Growing up in America, when we heard that word, we heard it translated as what? What do you remember as taqwa meaning what? What does taqwa mean? And sisters, there's no charge for you to speak also.
Fear.
Fear of Allah. You agree with that? When you taught fear of Allah, right? So the most common translation was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that in this verse, for example, if we take it to its logical end, if we say taqwa is fear, then how does that read? It says, fasting was prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those before you, so that you may achieve fear of Allah. Does it make sense to you? Does it make sense? Logically, it doesn't. Logically, it doesn't. But if you think about it, what is fasting? In human explanation, we've been telling our friends, especially people of other faiths and classmates and colleagues and co-workers, fasting is about I don't eat. Fasting is about I don't drink. Well, if we did that for a month and our behavior never changed, if we're a harsh person, we remain harsh. Impatient person, remain impatient. Stingy person remained stingy, didn't give anymore, nothing changed. No behavioral changes. What we're finding out is that we are doing an injustice to Ramadan by explaining it in a human, limited sense. What if we turned it around and said, what have we been doing for a month? We've actually been attempting to achieve taqwa is a heightened state of consciousness. Let's repeat that again. Taqwa is actually not fear of Allah, but it is a heightened state of the consciousness that Allah exists. Are you following what I'm saying? So if you hear Arabs, if somebody is becoming angry at another person, they're especially becoming, let's say, physically towards them, angry and upset, one person may say to the other what? Ittaqillah. Ittaqillah. Now if the guy who is huge in front of him, and he's about to pounce on the other guy, and you say, Ittaqillah, are you saying, fear Allah? No. You're saying, be conscious of Allah, because you are bigger. Maybe you can curse the person out, hit them, do whatever. When you're conscious of Allah, you will restrain yourself. You follow what I'm saying? Here's an example. Every corporation, when they do a study, if they have a corporate lunch, if they provide lunch to their staff, after lunch, productivity declines, especially when carbohydrates and sugars were served. Why? all the blood rushes where? To the stomach. For what? Digestion. Now suppose you began to regulate your body. You ate at a prescribed time almost every morning. You didn't eat or drink the rest of the day. You ate another prescribed time. After a while, the metabolism, the rate at which the body works, and the rest of your body begins to align with that routine. When that routine is active, the rest of your day, you're focused on what? The blood is only in the stomach until digestion, which will be the first hour or two after suhoor. Well, actually, it depends what you ate for suhoor, right? If you're still doing halim and nahari and all of the heavy kushri and mulakhaya and ma'luba and heavy things for suhoor, then your digestion probably goes till zohar time, which is a problem, and you can talk to somebody about that, right? Yeah, but if you eat the basic things, then your digestion is done. The rest of the day, what's happening is your senses are all heightened. Your senses are all heightened. The rest of your blood is in your brain, and you're constantly. So when you see somebody who is poor, it is not, and we shouldn't say to people, I fasted in Ramadan this whole month so that I could feel what the poor people feel. I have never met a poor person who said, you know, why don't you go and sit and then not eat for days so you can feel what I feel? No. I've never heard someone say, you don't even know what I feel like. Right? Why don't you stop drinking for days on end so you know what I feel? No. No poor person or person who is Ibn Sabil, the person of the way, nobody wants anybody else to feel the same way. Instead, what it means is telling me, oh subhanAllah, the money I was spending on lunch and snacks in between, and that extra coffee here and there, that Coke or Pepsi or whatever else, all that money now, it means I can consistently keep saving it if I watch how much I eat and how much I drink. You follow what I'm saying? The consciousness is there. I'm angry, and then what am I supposed to say? If I get angry at a person, what am I supposed to say to them if I'm fasting? What do I say? Did the hadith reach Lancaster yet? What is it? Inni? Yeah, inni sa'im. I'm fasting. I'm fasting. It's not the modified version of what our youth are saying. I'm fasting, but after sundown, meet me out back. Right? I'm fasting now. I'm not going to mess with you. But after sunset, out back, you and me, nobody else. 8 rakat tarawih, I'm there. Right? I'm going to take you out. Right? At that point, I would have eaten, I would have drank. That's not what it means. It clearly means that I'm aware that I could become angry, but I'm choosing to control myself. I'm choosing not to become angry, not to be harsh. Now, this idea of taqwa, God consciousness, it is coming to us in a series of verses in the Quran, whereby almost every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses taqwa, He is addressing the believers. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, ittaqullaha wa tanzur nafsum ma qaddamat. O you who believe, be conscious of Allah and look to see what you have done or presented for tomorrow. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, be conscious of Allah as He deserves that you be conscious of Him. Do not pass away in a state of submission. So it becomes normal to us to think that fasting must be about a heightened state of consciousness. So the next time somebody asks you who doesn't know about Ramadan, or finishing with Eid al-Fitr, and they say, what were you doing the last month? Don't say to them, I was not eating and drinking. That's like a minor part of what we were doing. Say instead to them, this was the month of spiritual and character development. Say that this is the month I was working on myself. I was working on who I am in becoming a better person. Who would not want to learn more from you? When you say that, who would not want to hear more? What does that mean? What were you trying to do? What was different about it? How did you do? How well did you do? Did you succeed? Right? What were the pitfalls? What were the challenges? And so on and so forth. The second big thing, inshallah, we want to emphasize this, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also tells us that the month of Ramadan is about what? Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi. Do you guys have an Egyptian imam ever? That's what they do to make sure the crowd is awake. Yeah, I know. That's what they do. That's what they do to make sure the crowd is awake. They'll do like Qul huwallahu, and then the rest of the crowd goes Ahad, right? That's how you know they're paying attention, right? So the idea was the month of Ramadan is the month in which was revealed the Quran. What if Muslims in America started changing the explanation of what we were doing for this month? What if instead of eating and drinking and that incessant discussion about food and desserts and what does your culture do and what does mine do and what is your favorite dish, blah, 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 blah. What if we said, you know what? This month is a month in which we celebrate the Quran. What is the Quran? What is our book? It's our holy book. What does it have in it? It has amazing values for daily life. What does that mean? It talks about parents. It talks about children. It talks about the rights of orphans. It talks about widows. It talks about setting up an entire economic system based completely away from interest, usury, which is in the Old Testament. Suddenly, they have something to connect with at a human level. Suddenly, you can say to them that this is the month and then baffle them. This is the month in which I will attempt to read, or I try to read, because you're at the end of the month now, over 6,000 verses. They'll say, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, but imagine this. There are people in our community who have memorized every single one of those more than 6,000 verses in the exact order it was revealed. In the exact order in which it is presented in the Quran. And then what does that do? They start to say, well, what is that book? Why is it so important? What does it have in it? And then you say, well, it's amazing. It actually talks about the beginning of creation with Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam. And then it takes us to every prophet that was presented, and they go, like what? You know what they're concerned about? They want to know how different you are from who they are. Do you think if you mention to them some of the names of the prophets, suddenly, at least the ones who are aware of their religion, because many are not, that we wouldn't be able to say to them, you actually know that name? I do. What are some common names you think between the Old and the New Testament and the Quran of the names of the prophets? Ibrahim alayhi salam? Yes, of course. I want the younger people to answer. Yes, I knew you were about to answer. I knew. Jesus, yeah. And what do you call Jesus in Islam? Isa. There you go. And Isa alayhi salam, when you get to that, especially in areas where Christians are a bigger population, just stop there. Just stop there and say to them, isn't it amazing that Jesus was a result of a miraculous birth? And they go, stop talking about my religion. They're like, no, I'm talking about my religion. Who was his mother? They say Mary, so we call her Maryam. You know, in that Quran we were reciting this whole month, there's a whole chapter honoring his mother, Maryam. Subhanallah. Suddenly, Maryam alayhi salam leaves the books of the Quran and becomes a character in their imagination common with our imagination. You follow what I'm saying? This is the beauty of talking about Ramadan, about the Quran, and not about eating and drinking and everything else. And think about this. Think about the fact that, for example, sometimes I'm in the plane traveling, and if it's especially December or Christmas time, people are always talking about Jesus. And they want Jesus to enter my life. And I don't mind that at all. So when I start talking to them, I wait until there's a good enough time that I can say to them, and you know what's amazing about Jesus? They said, what? That is mentioned in the Quran by name more than the Prophet ﷺ. Did you know that? Isn't that amazing? That the name of Isa alayhi salam is there, and then when they're least expecting it, I said, you know what else? They go, what? I'm waiting for Jesus to come back. And the hardcore Christians are like, what? What does that mean? I go, yeah, I'm waiting for Jesus to come back. They're like, where did he go? I go, where do you think he went? Right? And they start talking about, well, what do you think happened to him? Then I explain to them the Quranic story of how he was attempted to be crucified. Allah didn't allow it. That he is with Allah and he will return. And the challenge is, I'm waiting and they're waiting. So this is in the Quran. You see how you can choose a conversation and begin to have it. Musa alayhi salam, Lut alayhi salam, Nuh alayhi salam, and on and on and on. So if it was taqwa and Quran that we were working on for this last month, then why is it that our situation hasn't improved? Why is it that we are not that much better off in some cases, and in other cases, the real crying that you'll hear tonight and tomorrow, mostly tonight because it's the last night of Taraweeh prayer, will be from people who are waking up and realizing that Ramadan went by. That literally Ramadan went by. You know, sometimes like my mother constantly is talking about how fast time is going. Like, I don't know when she ever thought time was slowing down, but one favorite phrase is, where's time going, right? Ramadan just started. It was the first Friday. We had Taraweeh that night when we first started it, and then we blinked. Second Friday, third Friday, here we are, last Friday. Where did Ramadan go? The difference is the night is long. We still have time. Even if much of Ramadan did not really do much for us, this night and tomorrow during the day, we still have time. We still have time to recover. And the recovery comes from, number one, understanding and realizing that even if I do not finish reading the entire Quran today and tomorrow, that in and of itself is not a sin. But at least I have to say, what can I do to put my calendar correctly so that I can finish it in some reasonable time? Maybe I messed up. Maybe some of the kids were in public school. They were going to regular school. Some of us who have 9-to-5 jobs, we couldn't turn, as in Muslim countries, night into day and day into night. This is the beauty of being a Muslim in America, that we are actually living the toughest way to practice Islam. We are not actually turning night and day upside down as happens in India and Pakistan and Egypt and other places. We don't have that choice. We cannot go to our bosses and say, can you just change the whole world upside down because it's Ramadan, right? It's not happening. So even if we were far behind, the end of the race is near. The end of the race is near, and we still have a chance to make up some things. So number one, reading of the Quran. Even if you couldn't quite complete it, make some schedule and say, you know what, I'm going to do my human best to read as much as possible, but because I cannot complete it before Eid al-Fitr, I'm going to focus on reading as much of the translation as possible, and I'll know I can get that done faster, at least so I can understand what's being recited. At least so I can understand what's being recited. And believe me, we've now started encouraging the masajids in the last 10 nights when the imams usually make dua in the qiyam and in the tahajjud, to give translations of the dua. To give the translations of the dua, because the worst things you and I can do is to stand behind people who are making dua. We are saying Ameen, we have no clue what we're saying Ameen to. What a difficult situation. What a difficult situation. The Rabbana Atina Fid Dunya is a straightforward dua. Most of us know that. But the rest of the dua they're making, I don't have a clue. And I would like to know, you know why? For the least thing. What if the imam is upset that day and he's like, man, if these people in the first row don't stop burping, I'm not going to be able to continue. So he raises his hand and he goes, oh Allah, in Arabic, curse the people in the first row. And they're all like, Ameen, yes me, Ameen. They're crying. Right? The people that come very late in the back, they're shuffling their things, crushing their water bottles, right? Jingling their keys and ruining everybody else's salah. Right? I mean, now I think we all even need to introduce the whole idea of cell phone etiquette in the masjid. Allah help us with cell phone etiquette in the masjid. We have people who are actually, one imam told me, the man came for Fajr prayer, which is a beautiful thing. We love people who come for Fajr prayer. Somewhere in the first rak'ah, his phone went off, the ringer went off, and for the whole first half of the rak'ah until the end of Fajr prayer, the ringtone never stopped. Never stopped. Everybody's khushu is gone. The person is fully concentrating and doesn't turn off the phone. When they finished and everything happened, the imam came to me one time and he said, you know, this happened. What do you think was going on? I go, what was the ringtone? I was worried about what was the ringtone. What was the ringtone? He said, I found out later, because the imam is Arab. He said, I found out later, it was from a Bollywood movie. So you got up from home. You made the niyyah to pray Fajr. You have a Bollywood movie ringtone on your phone. It went off in the first half of the rak'ah. It went all the way until the salams, and you didn't turn it off. While everybody else's khushu was gone, your khushu remained, because the movie was probably about khushu and happiness, right? So then he said, why do you think he didn't turn off his phone? I want to ask you, why do you think this sincere human being who came all the way from home to pray Fajr in the masjid didn't turn off their phone? Why? Anybody?
He doesn't want to break his salah.
He doesn't want to break his salah. Based on which teaching of which madhab? It's mostly the people who are loving of Abu Hanifa. Imam Abu Hanifa, one of the greatest of Imams, said, minimize your movements in salah. Now, if he was alive and someone came to him and said, a Bollywood movie ringtone is going off and there are hundreds of people praying Fajr, would it be okay if I just go whoop, like this and turn it off? I am almost certain no Imam, Sheikh, Mufti, anywhere would say, no, please let the Bollywood go on because it helps the Quran. It sounds so much better when you have a soundtrack to the Quran. Right? In another instance, the brother was praying, mashallah. I'll go back to my main point. And the Imam was watching, as they were done, they're praying Sunnah. The poor brother was there. His cell phone rang. He was in tashahud, his cell phone rang. He got very nervous, it must have been a new phone. He wanted to turn it off, so he tapped his thigh where the phone was, thinking that it would turn off. He activated the speakerphone. His wife is trying to call him. And I want to find the cell phone plan where husbands and wives can connect in the masjid. I've never found a plan where you can actually reach your wife or your husband in the masjid. I don't know what it is. I didn't get your call. I didn't get your message. I didn't get nothing. So in this case, the speakerphone goes off. He's not answering. She hears sounds, but he's not answering. So she says, hello. He can't answer because he is in prayer. So he is still praying. She says, hello, are you okay? Hello. He gets louder. Now he gets nervous. So the Imam says this actually happened. He looked down at the phone and he actually said, I'm in tashahud. So number one, you could say he's a very obedient husband because the wife said exactly, where are you? You're not answering. He's like, I have to at least let her know I'm in tashahud, which is a good position to be in. You're about to say salam before the kalam happens at home, right? So what we're trying to get to is the dua should be something I understand. If I didn't understand the Quran, let me at least read the translation and call it a day as the Ramadan month finishes. Number two, Quran recitation is there. The dua, I am telling you in whatever language you choose, between tonight and tomorrow. And we're going to leave, inshallah, at least about 10 minutes, where I don't want anyone to talk to each other before iftar tonight, and just, it will be individual dua. Just dua for yourself, because I'm telling you, we don't know all of the challenges every human being is facing. Whether it's health or wealth or mind, whatever it is, we're going to focus on that. But your dua is critically important because it sets you in direct connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Islam, we have absolutely no middle person. No husband has to wait for his wife to make dua for him. No, he makes dua for himself. No wife has to wait for the husband, no child for the parents, although it's amazing if everyone includes the others in their dua. The husband for the wife for the husband, the children for the parents for the children, and so on and so forth. But this dua, I don't want you to make it as usual dua. I actually want you to think and itemize and categorize the blessings. We will talk today, inshallah, after you've eaten, about, for example, children living with disabilities. This is in the international world. The money that's being raised is being spent to improve their lives, give them a life with dignity. Why? Because Muslims, in our backwardness of not understanding the religion, actually took disability as a curse from Allah. We push our children who are challenged with physical disabilities into the corner. We don't want them to come out. And this is even worse in other countries. So when we talk about that, so suppose you have health. Suppose you have health. Your dua for the first couple minutes should only be, oh Allah, I am so desperately grateful to you for having given me this health. Because if we give gratitude for what Allah blessed us with, then that in itself is an acknowledgement of having achieved taqwa. The God consciousness is in saying that no, young children have passed away with health issues, and elders have passed away with health issues. But if I'm alive and I have health, then let me be grateful for the health that I have. That dua should be so at the forefront of who you are that no one should have to say to you, shouldn't you be grateful for your health? The second dua is for family. I can tell you, even as we sit here today, my wife and I, mashallah, have 4 kids. Every day, that we are alive, we make dua to Allah to help us be better parents to them. We make dua that we can love them and take care of them and provide them and protect them. That's a dua in any language you can make. That's not a dua that has to be in English or in a particular language or in Arabic for that matter. You can turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, "Oh Allah, when I wasn't married, I made dua, you helped me to get married. After I got married, I made dua for children, you granted me children." The dua is so critical. In fact, one Imam told us a story that sometimes the dua is, something you have to be really aware of what you're doing. This mother who was pregnant, she came to the Shaykh, she said, "I'm pregnant and we're expecting, so what dua, how can I make dua that my children are righteous and pious and kind?" The Shaykh told him, every day, just keep, looking at the raham, at the womb, and keep making dua. "Oh Allah, give me kind and passionate and compassionate children." Keep making that dua, inshallah Allah will bless you. When the 9 months came around, there were no contractions. Nothing was happening. 10 months, they went to the OBGYN and said, "You have to look to see what's going on." They looked inside, it was twins. This is a story, so pay attention. It was twins. And they kept going like this. So they looked at the ultrasound, and each child was saying, "After you. No, you go first. No, you exit first. No, you exit first." And if we didn't get that joke, I'll explain it to you after Salah, inshallah. So the idea is that the dua for family is that we are facing challenges from the outside. Islam as a religion is under attack. We cannot afford to attack one another. We cannot afford to have disharmony inside the house. So if I am the source of disharmony, then I turn to Allah and say, "Oh Allah, help me to be the person who is the source of harmony in the family." That's the husband, that's the wife, that's the son, the daughter, and so on and so forth. After dua is sadaqah. We still have another day and a half, a full day tomorrow, to still talk about sadaqah. Aisha anha said that the Prophet ﷺ in Shaban gave more sadaqah and fasted more than in the month of Ramadan, and than in any other month except for Ramadan. So Ramadan came, we're here, right? If suppose somehow it escaped you that to give sadaqah or to sort of spend more in charity, you still have time. You still have time. Choose a project. Choose a project. Maybe it is the masjid. Maybe it's an Islamic school. Maybe it's what we're going to talk about tonight, which is children who are living with disabilities, how to sponsor to improve their lives. Not to give a handout. Helping hand is for relief and development. To help them to live a life with dignity in place, which is usually with a relative or their own families. They're not put into homes or into sort of a warehouse because of their challenges. They're actually brought together and live with their family. Whatever you do for sadaqah, here is the critical piece. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about sadaqah and giving and spending in a way that He connects it with mental health. Mental health, emotions that are most prominent are anxiety, grief, and fear. Anxiety, grief, and fear. The person who has a little bit, just making ends meet day to day, paying the bills, they have anxiety and fear. Will I make it to the end of the month? Will I be able to make ends meet? The person who is blessed with a lot has anxiety and fear. Why? Will all of the wealth remain? Can I hold on to all of the wealth? Will this wealth disappear? Will some business decision cause us to go bankrupt? Anxiety and fear. So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is associating sadaqah, which is why in this last day and a half, pay attention to the blessings, especially in family life, and in work life, and in business life, and what did I spend in sadaqah? In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُم, those who spend of their wealth. بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, by night and also by day. سِرًّا وَعَلَانِيًا, in secret and also in public. This is what's amazing. In culture, according to culture we introduced, if you raise your hand when you're asking for funds, you're showing off. This is wrong. This is an innovation that is wrong. This is not something from our tradition. Raising your hands to motivate others, to encourage others, to be counted, is from the religion, because Allah is saying, Sirran wa alaniya. Give in secret, but also in public. So I give you a quiz question. When the Prophet peace be upon him asked for help, financial help, how much wealth did Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu bring? How much did he bring? You guys are afraid to speak? I'm not fundraising yet. Half of his wealth. But his brother Abdul Sattar appointed to answer on behalf of everybody? Is it really?
That's why I'm sitting.
That's why you're sitting there? And do you also make the dua
Inshallah.
about the people who burp and those other things? He brought half of his wealth. How much did Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu bring? All of it. All of it. How do we know that? It was a public exercise. Yes? What was that? Yeah. What do you want to tell us? The same word?
Yeah.
Oh good. What's your name?
Yeah.
Krem?
Yeah.
How do you spell it?
K-E-R-E-M.
MashaAllah. Kerem. Who are you? Where is your family from?
From Turkey.
Turkey,
I'm
mashallah.
from Turkey too.
You are from Turkey too? That's your made in the USA? Kerem? MashaAllah. MashaAllah. May Allah bless the people of Turkey, inshallah, and Syria and all of the other countries. Say Ameen.
Ameen.
MashaAllah. So, it's a public exercise. They competed with one another to give, to spend in the path of Allah. Showing off is actually what the scholars say was there was a man praying in the masjid. People saw him praying so much, they just stopped praying and would just sit and watch him pray. They would just watch him pray and he would pray and he'd pray and pray. They'd all say, look how much he prays, mashallah, look how much he prays. Of course he can hear them. So one day they said, look how much he prays. And in ruku, he turned to them and said, and I'm fasting too. So that's showing off. Raising your hand to say, I'll support one child with disabilities or 10 children with disabilities, that's not showing off. That's encouraging those who are around you to be able to, inshallah, do as much as they can. But sadaqah is critical in Ramadan because in many parts of our faith, whatever deficiencies we have, we make up through the additional acts. If we didn't do well in the fard prayers, we have the nawafil prayers. They say, oh Allah, I was distracted, I was not focused, let me make this up. Sadaqah, even giving in sadaqah, as Imam Ghazali hafidhahullah said, in the Ihya Ulumuddin, about sadaqah, he said, maybe you give sadaqah in response to the verse I recited. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ to the end of the verse. Maybe he said you give sadaqah because you want it to be an expiation, a washing away of sins you committed. It's between you and Allah. The last thing he said was, maybe you give in sadaqah because the zakah payment, it's a calculation. We're human beings. We can make mistakes. Because maybe, he said, there was an underpayment of zakah. So what if you're giving sadaqah to make up for the underpayment? Amazing, amazing concept. In Islam, well, actually in the IRS, if you underpay your taxes, you'll promptly get a letter. You'll get a letter, it'll tell you you underpaid by this much amount. The interest and the penalty on that is this much. You better pay up by this deadline. Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't send letters. Maybe I underpaid zakah, I forgot a piece of jewelry, some part of the estate, some part of the income. Imam al-Ghazali is saying, the more you give in sadaqah, you'll make up for deficiencies in other parts of ibadah. So what does that mean? In this last odd night, it means you focusing and saying, I'm not going to count money. Instead, I'm going to count blessings. I'm going to take that surah that comes so much in the center of the Quran, Surah Ar-Rahman, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges us to keep asking in a refrain, in a repeated verse over and over and over again, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ? Which of the favors or the bounties of your Lord will you deny? Will you deny? Is it your health? You didn't come up with it by yourself. If the doctor said you're pre-diabetic, this was not your doing. Don't kid yourself and say, oh, I'm so thankful I ate one less cup of rice, right? And I'm talking about cups, not spoons, because mashallah, it's Ramadan, right? By the way, Muslims spend the most on food. All the research shows consistent. The most on food in Ramadan than in any other month in the calendar year. Is that ironic? Isn't that amazing that we spend more? Because we're so worried we're not going to have enough food for suhoor and iftar. We spend more. We go, do not go grocery shopping at Costco on an empty stomach when you're fasting. Right? You will literally buy aisles of things. And they'll say, but you have such a small car. But you'll say, because I'm fasting. I need all of this. I'll take revenge on the food when it's iftar time because I've been away from the food. That's why I'm not kidding. I've seen the art in America, mashallah, now, where kids are developing the art of, I call it samosa stacking at iftar. You see that? They walk away with a plate of 7 samosas for one kid. And I know they're not going to eat all the 7, but they'll get wasted. And in fact, I also know that they're born and raised here. They'll only eat the crust because the inside is too spicy. You have those kids? I have those kids, right? I end up eating the inside because they don't even leave me the crust, right? But they waste the food. So this is the time, subhanAllah, to give sadaqah and give in the best way possible so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, will use it to alleviate and expiate any of our sins. In closing, inshallah, because they told me in this area, because I've been in several time zones, said 8:38, right, Imam? No discount? 38:39? No, make up your mind. All right, so we'll have about 10 minutes, inshallah, so let me just close. We began by saying that the important aspects of Ramadan, in addition to doing away with eating and drinking, are actually the development of taqwa, which we made the case to say the Quran shows us is actually talking about not so much the fear of Allah, because that's khawf, that's mentioned in the Quran, but it's more so the heightened consciousness. That we are more conscious of what Allah blessed us with, all the tests and challenges of indeed our wealth and our health. Secondly, we said the month is also about the Quran, in which are tremendous values. Tremendous values for us to pay attention to and learn. Somebody's phone, adhan, is going off. We have to check which carrier you have, and then it's most likely Sprint. It's a conspiracy. What were you doing? You were practicing the adhan?
No, it's just alarm.
It's just an alarm. Your alarm is the adhan.
No, just alarm. Like 10 minutes before adhan.
Oh, that's the adhan for the 10 minutes before the adhan. Yeah, I mean, really, come on.
No, it shows that. Get ready.
So get ready to pray. It reminds me of the guy, the Imam finished praying Isha prayer, and he was convinced that he hadn't prayed all 4. So he turned around, the first people in the first row should have known what was happening. He said, how many did I pray? He said, 3 or 4. They said, we don't know, Imam. Your recitation is so beautiful, we didn't pay attention. Nobody knows the whole masjid. In the back row, there's an old man. He said, I know how many we prayed. He said, how do you know? He said, I own the store across the street. When you make the adhan, I close the shop. By the time you make iqamah, I show up, but I'm in the last row. In the first rak'ah, I count how many chickens I sold. In the second rak'ah, I count how many vegetables I sold. In the third rak'ah, it's the milk. Today, I have no clue if I sold any meat at all. So you must have only prayed 3 rak'ahs, right? So may Allah bless us with that adhan alarm, inshallah. Make it easy, inshallah. Alright, so to close out, read as much of the Quran in the last day and a half as you can, but don't overdo it. If you can read a translation, do that, but set a schedule to finish reading the entire Quran in the coming weeks and months. Number 2, make dua. In any language possible, make dua, especially in these last few minutes before we break our fast, and beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever it is you are asking for. And last but not least, tonight, give sadaqah in some capacity. Whatever you give, the Prophet said, ittaqun nar, save yourselves from the hellfire, even if it was with only half a date. And after we have dinner, inshallah, I'll explain to you where the story came from about that particular instance. So we ask Allah to accept from all of us our fasting and our praying, and indeed help us to focus as we make dua. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So reminder again for those who came late, we're going to break fast at 8:38, 8:39. But this time now is not for talking. It's for each person to just focus and make dua for themselves. Whatever it is, but just focus. It's the last of the 2 nights before Ramadan is done. We owe it to ourselves to make that dua, inshallah, for ourselves.